Welcome, readers. Today on Book Chat, joining me is my buddy read co-host, Classy Green. We'll be discussing A Good Marriage by Kimberly McCreight. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and thank you for downloading this month's Buddy Read discussion featured here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. If you're new here, every week we get bookish with book discussions, book review shelf bites, and more. If you are wondering what is a buddy read, this is a feature where Classy and I select a thriller or mystery title that we both are interested in. Then we have a candid discussion about that book or audiobook. We even discuss it in our Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official during a live chat. So grab a glass of wine, a cocktail, a cup of tea or coffee, or whatever your drink of choice is, and settle in for this fun discussion. As always with book chats, there is a spoiler alert in effect, so you've been warned. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with one book nerd friend or on your favorite social media space. That would really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing it. The uncut video version of this podcast is available now on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including this podcast after show. You can find both Classy and myself on Instagram and Twitter. And if you're reading or listening to this audiobook and would like to contribute to the conversation, of course, be sure to join the Shelf Addiction Official Facebook group. I hope to hear your thoughts on this discussion. The links for everything I've mentioned are below in the show notes. All right, we've got a lot to cover today, so we're going to jump right on in. Joining me is the Buddy Read feature co-host, Classy Green. Welcome back, Classy.
Hey, girl, hey.
Hey. Today, we are discussing the audiobook version of A Good Marriage, written by Kimberly McCreight, narrated by Sarah Zimmerman, Carissa Vacker, and George Newbern. The length is 12 hours and 57 minutes on the unabridged audio, and it was released May 5th, 2020 by Harper Audio. So before we get started, Classy is going to share the synopsis.
Lizzie Kostakis is working late when she gets the call. Grueling hours are standard at elite law firms like Young and Crane, but they'd be easier to swallow if Lizzie was there voluntarily. Until recently, she had been a happily underpaid federal prosecutor. That job and her brilliant, devoted husband, Sam, she had everything she'd ever wanted. And then suddenly it all fell apart. The last thing Lizzie needs right now is a call from an inmate at Rikers asking for help. Even if Zach Grayson is an old friend, but Zach is desperate. His wife, Amanda, has been found dead at the bottom of the stairs in their Brooklyn brownstone, and Zach's the primary suspect. As Lizzie is drawn into the dark heart of idyllic Park Slope, she learns that Zach and Amanda weren't what they seemed, and that their friends, a close-knit group of fellow parents at the exclusive Grace Hall private school, might be protecting troubling secrets of their own. In the end, she's left wondering not only whether her own marriage can be saved, but what it means to have a good marriage in the first place.
So I just want to say there were two quotes that kind of stood out to me. The first one I did not write down, so I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it was very early on. And one of Amanda's friends says to her, "A good marriage is one that survives."
Yep.
I'm like, ding, ding, ding.
Yes.
And another one, and I'm not sure who said this one.
There was a lot of good quotes.
Yeah. Someone said, but sometimes it's easier to stay married if you pretend. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, this book had like the parallel plots and this was like Marriage and Mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
It had marriage, sex parties, blackmail, pornography. I'll leave out the other part, but we'll just and pornography. It was just so much in mystery.
Did you say blackmail?
Yeah,
blackmail. Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, blackmail, pornography, sex parties, marriage. But in the end, like you said, what what does a good marriage consist of? What is a good marriage? And those quotes are key.
A good marriage looks different for every couple.
Yep, it definitely. Well, and that. I love how you made that nice little segue, because in each one of these marriages, there was a difference. You had Meg and not Meg, but Maud and Seb, who had an open marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and they were the ones who hosted this so-called summer sex party, their annual summer sex party. So,
Annual and final. So they also decided to stop doing that.
Yeah, that is right. And so I think, what is it, like 4 couples?
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of see like who survives.
Yeah, so it's
at the end.
Yeah, so okay, so you mentioned Maud and Zeb, and then of course Carrie and Sarah. And was Zeb the one who was like the fine husband that they were like, oh, he can do anything because he looked good?
Zeb was the French doctor who looked good without his shirt on.
Yeah.
He could. Mm-hmm. So an accent and abs.
Yes. And then Sarah and Carrie seemed one way, but we find out they had some money problems.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And they were friends with Amanda, who is the woman we're all trying to figure out what happened to her. And Amanda was married to Zach, who is in jail.
Right. And they seem to have everything too, but they also had money problems.
They did. And unfortunately, Amanda didn't even know any of it.
No, she was blind. She was blind. And then we have, but I mean, that's the sex party or the couples that lived in, what was the name of this town again? Whatever town that was.
Yeah, that's Brooklyn. Like the core group of friends, Amanda's friends.
And Lizzie and Sam is an outpost. Lizzie is the attorney, but somehow, some way, Sam is intertwined with another couple. This darn Kimberly McCreight, I love how she weaves it. I mean, because at first, like when you're reading it, you know it, but you're so enthralled that you don't think about it until we start unpacking it. And like when I was writing things down, I was like, oh yeah, and she did that. But I must say, I think she did a great job, because this could have been very complex and could have been some missing pieces. I may have only found one missing piece that I thought, but other than that, I think she did a wonderful job with weaving the 3 couples from, the close-knit couples, and then intertwining Lizzie and her husband.
Yeah.
So
let me just say, when we found out, okay, so we're kind of going to jump around as we always do. So hopefully you've read the book. If not, sorry, not sorry. Yeah. Okay. So when Sam confides, to Lizzie that he doesn't remember where the earring came from. So at one point, Sam is like, he's an alcoholic, blackout drunk alcoholic. I instantly was like, oh, he fell asleep somewhere and somebody put it on him. I instantly kind of felt that, but I didn't know who put it on him or how, what I'm saying? I didn't catch that connection right away, but I was like, oh, he's so drunk. Somebody just left it on him. I just felt that immediately. I'm like, he's not cheating. He don't know where he got it from.
No, somebody put that in his pocket so they wouldn't get blamed for, with their wife.
Yeah, he's not cheating and he's not a killer. He's too lazy to be a killer.
Way too lazy.
Yeah.
And he's too busy trying to make up to Lizzie for the wrong he had done. So I think he just didn't have the guts or the balls to try and cheat on her. He was, in that stage of, please, baby, please.
Yeah, she was carrying them for a long time. So
she was carrying a heavy weight, and the weight of not telling her law firm that they were in debt, because if she revealed that they were in debt, she wouldn't have got that job. So
yeah.
I
which
don't think
is, I
Sam, I'm
mean,
not sure if Sam knew that or not, but
she probably didn't tell him, the
yeah,
whole, I'm trying to like help him not make things worse. Like she's always seems like she's trying to be doing. Like she
yeah,
doesn't even want to come down on him too hard, really. Like she won't
right.
even confront him. She has to go through all these steps in her brain before she can figure out, okay, I'm going to confront him about this.
Right, because she knows how damaging that is to his ego.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it like a woman? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we
Like, why
are we
are
gonna
we
be
concerned with
maybe?
their ego? They the ones. Look, you owe me the damn explanation. Why am I concerned about hurting your feelings? But we always do that as women.
Yeah, we will consider their ego before they will consider ours.
Ain't that the
I feel like
truth?
did we man bash last month too? It's okay. It's all right. It's our show,
Yes.
damn it.
It's real. It is real,
Yeah, it is.
okay?
Yeah, it
the
is.
the
But yeah, she
feelings of
did.
these women is real.
Yeah, and she did. She walked on eggshells. She questioned everything. She was like, "Oh, I second guessed him. Oh, I did this, and that." But the thing is not just you second guess. I mean, they were in your face. What is your husband doing with the earring? I mean, would you think? Granted, he's a drunk, but would you have thought if your husband had an earring? Would you have thought, oh, somebody probably, stuck it in his pocket, or you would have
No.
thought his drunk ass may have slept with somebody and just doesn't know it?
See, I'm the kind of person where I don't fight, I don't scream, I don't do all that drama. But let me catch some earring. I'll be knocking you upside your head, okay? You gonna see a side of me you've never seen. You better remember where that earring came from, and it better sound
Right.
real.
Yeah. Because there's so many, there's some hard lines that you just don't cross.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I can take that. I'm gonna pick and choose my battles, and guess what? Lipstick on the collar, other people's jewelry, underwear, whatever, or things that no. You
Yeah.
got some Lucy, you got some explaining to do.
I know. You better not say I don't remember, man. I'll help you remember.
Yeah. So yeah, she did. She walked on eggshells
She
and
did.
didn't want to make him worse than he already was, because he didn't have a job. He was a writer.
And she was already stressed. She never even thought that lie would come back to bite her until she was blackmailed into working for Zach. And now she's like, oh my God, I'm like stuck to this guy, And she
Yeah.
already hates the job anyway. She didn't want to be a
Right.
defense attorney. She wanted to be a prosecutor, but that's not
Right.
where the money is. So she
Right.
switched jobs.
Yeah. And that was her heart, was to be a prosecutor. And he kept, Zach kept at her. No, I want you to do it. No, I want you to do it. And at first I was just like,
Why?
okay, yeah. Yeah. Cause he knew, that she was it was suspect, but then it was like, maybe he just knew that she was good at what she did and they were good friends.
I don't
Well,
know.
in
I
his
kind of felt
mind,
like
they
he
were
was
good friends.
infatuated right away. I'm like, why? What's his
Yeah.
infatuation with her? But I couldn't figure out what it was or why it
Yeah.
was right away.
Yeah. He was a character. He was a narcissist.
He was really awful. And then
Yeah.
he done so much stuff. He is the worst kind of person.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And I could just see him just sitting there, with that little grin, that little shit-eating grin on his face. When Amanda said he was talking at the party to Sarah, and she knew his gestures, and she was like, he was talking basically with the big hands, and she's like, oh, there's Zach over there talking to Sarah, with his gestures, like, he's talking to somebody who's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, and that was something that I really liked about Kimberly's writing, is the way she wrote. She didn't have to just spell out that he was a narcissist. She let us find out about different characters through, the narrators, Amanda. But, there were just little things that she would say, about them that you could envision him being this little jerk.
There was one thing that happened pretty early on that was the biggest red flag for me. The minute this happened in the story, I'm like, you can't trust anything that comes out of his mouth.
His mouth.
So
let's see if I think so too.
So the part where, Lizzie is talking to the guard and she's like, hey, can you give this paper to him? I need him to sign it. And he's like, yeah, do me a favor. And then she's like, I got to go back in. He's like, well, do me a favor and tell him to stop hitting his head against the wall or something. She's like, what? I'm like, okay, so when somebody is self-injuring, that is the sign for cuckoo crazy.
Very, very.
Yes.
And then he says, I was wondering how long it was going to take you to figure it out.
Oh,
I was like,
her life turned on a dime. She was like, oh my God, what have I just got myself into?
Right. I think she went back to that college roommate or that college friend who said he was kind of creepy or he was weird.
Mm-hmm.
And she was probably like, damn, was she right? She was spot on.
I mean, if you can do that to yourself, you're capable of anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And that helped with the twist in the story too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lord,
no one was safe as far as being a possible suspect.
No.
In this story.
And there were plenty of motives spread all around when he started coming down to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody had a motive. Everyone. The one person I thought did it, it came down to this close to being her, but yeah.
Yeah, I thought Maud did it too. I was like, but did she in it? But I'm like, it's too easy. It's too easy. And she was so willing to tell the truth in the end. I'm like, I believe her.
Right. And the only reason why I thought it was her too early on is because remember when she came to the house to talk to Amanda and she saw the key, but Amanda wasn't sure if Maud saw the key that, she would leave under there, the extra key for case. And I was like, that's a little context clue there. And, and she mentioned it later on in the story. But like you said, it was too easy. She was too willing to confess. She was too willing to give Zach an alibi.
That was a big trigger for me as well. When Lizzie approached her and the first thing out her mouth was, Zach and I were upstairs. I'm like, why are you lying? Like, why are you giving him an alibi? For what? What reason?
Yeah. 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 Because I was like, I just don't see Zach upstairs. But, the quiet ones can be the freaky ones. But you didn't hear that from me. But anyway, that's what the people had told me. But I just couldn't see him in this story. He was just too much of a narcissist. He thought he was just so much better than everyone else. I could not see him letting down his guard like that, especially with people he did not know.
Yes.
So it just didn't seem a viable alibi for him. So trying to think what else.
Well, I do have a couple of plot holes that I think we can discuss.
Yay!
So let's change the topic a little bit. I have two major plot holes that I am wondering about. So maybe you can fill me in if you caught it, because I didn't.
Okay.
So when we find out that, Zach and Amanda had a wretched marriage, like basically they got together and agreed to just be together. Like she just had a better life and he had a wife and a housemaid and a scheduler. And I'm like, but why? Like, okay, other than the money, other than trying to get out of working in a motel, what was it about her that he said, hey, let's do this deal? I mean, like, it was like Loveless. Like, what was the motivator that made him or made her agree to that shit? What was it? Yeah.
I think as far as for Zach, if you remember in the story, he was all about appearances.
Uh-huh.
Remember the books? he didn't read those books. He brought in an interior designer who picked certain books that looked like, hey, I'm an intelligent reader. I'm just not someone who reads fiction. Because, there are some people who think if you read fiction, you're not that, bright. You need all the, the very smart, intellectual, philosophical books. And he wanted, like the pictures on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Amanda wanted pictures of the family and all this. He was all about appearances. And when he saw her, I think he saw, here's this stunning, beautiful wife who's going to basically be a trophy wife. She doesn't have to work. All I need her to do is look pretty because she's going to be on my arm. At one point, I thought, is this a gay man who is afraid to come out? But, this is his beard, as they call it. Like she's my presenting of the whole American family. But he was about appearances, and he was a little quirky. And some quirky people do realize that they may not be able to get what they want. Like, he didn't get a Lizzie like he wanted her.
Mm-hmm.
She recognized that he was kind of quirky. Here he has this 17-year-old girl who he probably figured out, he was pretty bright, that she needed an out, or she, she's working in a motel or hotel
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So he probably realized, here's my opportunity to get a beautiful girl.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it is. But how many other opportunities do you think he would have got? And she was malleable. She was 17. He can tell and teach her and basically have her wrapped around his little finger. But, to date someone like Lizzie or Sarah or whatever, it'd have been hard.
But that's a shame because he could have. You said that, Zach could have had Amanda wrapped around his finger, and he could have, but he didn't even try. He didn't give two shits about her. And that was very clear. She knew it. He knew it. And it probably wouldn't have took that much for her to believe that he cared about her in some level. She was scared to tell him anything.
Yeah. But all he wanted was appearance. All he wanted was a wife, a child, and not the picket fence, but the fancy house in Brooklyn. Because remember, he even chose a certain place to live.
Mm-hmm.
It was like out of his way, I believe. They were like, why are you over there in Brooklyn? He was all about appearances. And he even said it's not, oh God, what was the one quote in the book that he had told either Amanda or Lizzie? It wasn't about winning, but it's how you look doing it or something like that. So he was about appearances. Amanda was beautiful. The house was beautiful.
And I found the perfect quote that counters that. Pretty bows on a pile of shit only make it harder to flush.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly.
There were so many good quotes.
Oh, gosh. So many. But I think that was why he chose her. Because, he met her in a hotel in one day. Right. Basically overnight, and he was saying he was going to Lake Tahoe, and she was like, ooh, I've never been basically out of this little town. And he was like, join me. Who does that? A controlling narcissist. So he just showed who he really was.
Yeah.
Right there. But at first I was just like, here's this little nerdy guy who sees a beautiful girl, and he was like, I may never get this girl again, a beautiful girl like this again.
Mm-hmm.
And he took that chance. But
that's what I thought at first.
17.
I thought at first it was a fluke and maybe they just really got along, but that was really disproved really quickly. We really quickly found out that was not the case at all.
Yeah. It was basically, what are you complaining about? You have all this money. Give me at least one child. And this wasn't mentioned in the book, but that's how you felt. It was like, you shouldn't be complaining. You got all the money you need. You came from an impoverished, lifestyle. He flipped it. He basically flipped it on her the way you could tell with the relationship. Here you were impoverished. Your parents are gone, and now you came up because I had a feeling. Even though she didn't tell him about her father, he knew.
Mhm.
He knew, because if he researched Lizzie and all the other people, he knew about her. And at one point, I thought he was the one making those phone calls to her.
You know what? I thought so too. And I was like, maybe he's trying
Mm-hmm.
to make her look crazy so he could just get rid of her.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, I don't know. But the only thing that now this is what's ironic, because the thing that saved him was that I just feel like he was too tied up in whatever he was doing to even care how she turned out. You know, he didn't care. So her being
Yeah.
there, I mean, when he kind of was like yelling at her about, you know, checking the emails or whatever, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's his assistant. He
Right.
don't care. He's not gonna go through the stress to get rid of her because she's nothing already.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, nah. But then I'm like, well, I feel like he's so awful. He could have done it. He could have done it.
Right. Just to be a prick.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, just to be a prick. Because, I mean, for him to, it was something else he did that was pretty weird. You know, like even in college, he basically said he made it seem like he and Lizzie were boyfriend and girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
even though, you know, it wasn't a said or definite. And then we find out he was outside the club where her and Sam met. He was loitering. He was, you know, he was creepy. So I kind of felt that he possibly could have done it just for shits and giggles,
Mm-hmm.
almost as a control thing. You know,
Yeah.
here's a man who didn't come home at night, and when he did come home, he changed in the closet and slid in the bed.
He would have had a different room if he didn't think people would see or could. I mean, he didn't want people in the house. He didn't want her
Nope.
in his office.
Nope. Nope. He was a jackass. Okay.
100%.
Ooh, child.
So the flip of that, though, is like the irony of it all is how crazy Amanda was too. And I mean, that whole book, we were being fed two stories the whole time. You know, we're getting Amanda's story through her written diary.
Right.
And so we're getting this story, and Lizzie's starting to feel, well, maybe her father's coming after her. Maybe he's the stalker.
Right.
Then we get to 80% in the book, and then we find out freaking Amanda killed her daddy, and her
Right.
dad killed the friend that kept showing up over and over again. The
Right.
friend
The one she was
Caroline.
supposed to jog with. Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, so she's waiting for someone that's not real. She's having phone conversations with someone that's dead. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell? And I'm like, those
So
kind of
she's
things.
delusional.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is like a plot hole for me, is because it's like, why?
She didn't wrap that up.
No.
She didn't wrap that up. That was another, I wrote that down too. Her delusions never really played out into the story, or, you know, in the storyline, because I just went brain dead.
Oh.
But it didn't like, it was like, so in the end, when she dies, and like you said, if you didn't read the book, so be it. And she got up because she thought the intruder was her father. So, so she's fighting with him, and she falls down the stairs, and then she tries to get up again and falls again. So my thing was, like you were saying, so did we get all of this about your father stalking you to come to this part, that you think he's the one that's in the house attacking you, and you know, it was like,
I mean, she was so far gone, you know. The killer was talking to her like, calm down. It was someone else's voice, and she wasn't listening. She was just reacting. And I'm like, wow, she is like on 1,000 right now.
Yeah, because it's like, who's making these phone calls? And then at the end, you know, like Carrie was saying, he was texting her. And at first, as you were saying with the plot hole, so was it Carrie calling her and breathing heavy? and she just assumed, you know.
It
So
was her
those were some of
father.
those plot
Yeah.
holes. I was like, okay, Miss McCreight, you didn't
But she was
tie that up
also
for me.
making up story about Caroline. Caroline had been long gone, but yet she says Caroline lives in New York. Caroline is mad at me. She's not taking my phone calls. Like, why are you making up stuff about a dead woman that's been dead for a long time?
Because she needed therapy. She was, I don't know what condition that was. It wasn't schizo. It was something else where she was, because I mean, she had set up a meeting to jog with this woman.
Yeah.
So she was, she was still struggling with, even after 11 years or whatever, how many ever years when she killed her father. So my thing is, and another plot hole that you mentioned. So if she killed her father and she was working at the hotel, well, I'm assuming he was dead then.
Yeah, he was dead then.
And her mother said, run. So, and that was another thing. Her mother told her to run as fast as you can. So that was her out, was to marry or to at least run with that.
Her mother told her that on her deathbed before she killed the father.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why would you have to run if you killed him?
Yeah. So that was the plot hole too for me, was her delusions and, the phone calls. And I'm like, okay, so why did you give us all of this through her diary? And I get it, maybe to throw us off the killer.
But that was one big elaborate situation to just be like, guess what, guys? Psych, she's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is that was the only sign of crazy. Nobody else, and I mean, she played it well. Nobody else noticed that she was crazy.
And it was like this delusion revolved just around that, exclusively those two people.
Yeah. Because usually if you're that delusional, and this is just my opinion, I've worked with some students who had some problems. It will show up in other little things. You can only keep that for so long, that facade. So it's like, are you going to tell me nobody else saw? Seb saw, what are you doing? What were you doing out here? But she played it off, but nobody else saw that she was just a little off,
just a little. Keep talking about this friend we've never ever seen, not once.
Yeah, no, not at all.
She's supposed to be your best friend, but you can't bring her around us, not once.
And these phone calls, it only occurred when.
But also, don't forget that Caroline only existed to her friends. Zach didn't know who the hell Caroline was.
No, not at all. He was like, who?
Yep.
And Caroline hated Zach. But you know what? It was almost, now that I say this out loud, Caroline was like her protector. You know how you have like that a little imaginary friend? What book did we read? Was it The Marsh King's Daughter? Yeah. Remember how she had the two little kids who kind of talked to her? But Caroline at one point got a little mean,
she
with
was
her.
Mean girl.
Yeah. Because she said, yeah, I did see your dad. And it was, and it was almost, now when I think in retrospect, was she really losing it then? Because all of a sudden Caroline flipped on her. She wasn't.
And she was lying to her.
Me. Yeah.
Because she was like, I saw him, it was dark. And then she's like, oh, I saw him in the morning. And she's like, well, which is it?
Yeah. Yeah. So, maybe she was it was becoming way too much. But prior to that, Caroline was her supporter, tell him. So maybe that was her, her little angel on the right shoulder, the good angel that kind of helped her get through the marriage to Zach.
Well, in the information that Lizzie sought out when she was trying to figure out if this story was true, that she killed her father, she did find out from the rumor mill, basically, that Caroline probably was in there with the daddy because she was trying to help her. Yeah, because we know that the father was raping her.
Yeah, that's what the uncle said, because the dad raped Amanda.
Yeah.
he was molesting her.
Yeah.
So he was just another bastard, a little drunk.
That's
Okay, I
dreadful.
won't say it.
I mean, that's a horrible life. And I mean, like, I understand sometimes when bad things happen to kids like that, they kind of put that in a compartment and just put it away. You know,
they compartmentalize.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't deal with that. So we're just going to put it over here. But the fact that she just probably, but then the fact that you're like, you can't, I would almost be more appreciative of her saying, I don't know, my friend disappeared and, you know, my daddy fell off a cliff, versus her having live conversations and being scared of people that she killed.
Yeah. But she thought she was saving. I'll have to, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought she felt like she was saving Caroline, because didn't she say something like she was trying to resuscitate her or something? So maybe she didn't. I don't know. Poor child.
Well, the woman at the records place said that, you know, I guess she kind of said, well, I think it was the woman at the records place that said that, yeah, she was protecting her friend. And that's why she didn't go to jail, because her friend was being accosted, raped, and she jumped on her daddy trying to save the friend, but the friend was already dead because she hit her head like on the side of the basin or something. So the friend was dead, but she thought she was helping her.
Yeah. And she probably thought the friend was still alive.
Yeah.
And I think, and you know what, I think we're probably digging way deeper than, and this may be what Kim meant, because, you know, maybe she did compartmentalize and thought, hey, I saved her. But your daddy's not alive, baby.
Yeah, I just wish that they had addressed that somehow. Like if the author had just kind of tied that one little thing up somehow, someone
better.
Yeah.
It didn't set well with me either, because at the end I was like, well, what about her being crazy though? Okay, I won't say crazy. Not crazy. But what about her and her delusion? What about all of that? And Caroline, you know, how did that? No, Kim, that was my one thing I didn't.
I mean, honestly, if the father was still alive, I would have been okay with that. And it still could have been Carrie. It could have been the father was calling and Carrie was doing this. Yeah. And actually the father just never approached her because he didn't know where she lived, but Carrie did.
Yeah. And it was just right. And she could have even did it with, because when Carrie mentioned that his dad was mean, didn't she kind of agree or something? And, you know, that could have been a nice tie-in where, you know, Carrie, one night when Carrie came to fix something because, you know, asshole Zach wasn't home to fix it, she confided in Carrie. We're already rewriting the book. It's McCreight.
I know. And I did enjoy it, but that loophole kind of just really bugged me. I'm like, don't introduce something as substantial as that and just like blow it off in the wind like we're supposed to forget about it.
Yeah, like poof. Okay, let's keep going. No.
Yeah.
Oh, I took a star away.
That was major. That was a major thing. And you're like, wait a minute, this whole 80% of the book, we've been reading this story, feeling a certain, and I felt a way about Lizzie anyway. She wasn't one of my favorite characters. It made me kind of, I was trying to be sensitive to her with her struggles, but I'm like, she's so timid. She's so second guessy. She's so, you know what I mean? I could not relate to her, but so I was trying to be like, take it easy on her. But then at 80% to find out that whole thing was fake. I'm like, come on.
Right. Because she went to the other prosecutor, the ex-wife, whatever, Wendy, and said, you know, helping her out. Maybe her dad, maybe you should look into her dad. Come on now, Lizzie. How about you do this? But she didn't really want to do this. And again, like you were saying, she was timid. She really didn't want to take on Zach's case because she didn't.
No.
So
she didn't want anything. And I mean, I don't know. I just, I like the story, but just these little things.
Those little nuances.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
But it was interesting, and it did and I have to admit, I usually don't like when a book compares, itself to other popular books and movies. But in this case, they compared it to Big Little Lies, and
Right.
I kind of see it, but not really. Like, I can see because of all of the couples, you know what I'm saying? Because Big Little Lies had a bunch of couples in it. I kind of see the correlation there. That's about it, really. And of course, there's a death, but not in the same way.
Right. Yeah. Right. And the friendship between the women and what happens, but no. But I can see, this is a good way to get the book to sell. And it was a good book besides, that plot hole. But yeah. But other than that, there was some good twists, the sex parties and who went upstairs and who slept with who, and did Amanda sleep with somebody's husband, and, jealousy, because those were things to think about. Did Amanda sleep with somebody's husband and
she's too scary to do anything? She couldn't even approach Zach to go to a party without having major anxiety. She was not sleeping with anybody.
I thought she finally just let loose, man. I thought possibly, but I didn't. But, those are some things you think about. Like, did she? Did she not? Or, just the thought, because she did make it seem like if you just went up those stairs, it was just presumed that you were having sex.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah. And Zeb was up there kind of consoling her and stuff, which was hilarious when she got the text that said, "Stay away from," and that's another cool. I'm like, wait a minute, your daddy does not know who he is.
Oh yeah. I lost it then. I was like, this is not her father.
No.
This is not her daddy at all.
No.
And then when she said, "Leave me the fuck alone," he was like, "No, fuck you, bitch." And then when that happened, I was like, "It's Sarah."
Stay away
That's
from
what
my
I thought it was. Sarah had no filter. None. Sarah was just like, when Maude was having trouble with Sophie.
Yeah.
Sophie had taken the pictures, was sending, naughty nude pictures to some guy. Come to find out, somebody was blackmailing her. And Sarah was just like, "Oh, don't worry about that. That's what kids do. There's little sites where they just..." And Maude is like, "Oh my God, my daughter could be on a website like Pornhub or something."
But Maude really didn't reveal how bad it was.
No. And I get that as a mom.
Yeah, you want to protect your child. Yeah,
because Sophie was scared and didn't want anybody to know, because now that, they're going to look at her differently.
She tried to kill herself.
Yeah.
And that was the last straw. So come to find out, to just put it in a nutshell, so we find out that Zach is actually a person, because that's another story that's going the whole time. So the email list and stuff was hacked from the school. Mm-hmm. And then we find out that Zach is the ringleader for all of this, but he wasn't doing all of this because the stuff was going on while he was in jail, but he had enlisted other people to kind of blackmail other people so he could sell some security software. Yeah. And then one of the people he enlisted ended up being a pedophile who went after Sophie for photos that she had took, and then tried to get her to do stuff on cam, and she did it. Yeah.
It was just, he was a sick individual.
Yeah.
For money.
Yeah.
But he had got to the point, because he was bankrupt. The company he started, they fired, the CEOs or the board of directors or whatever, wind up firing him because of, I can't even remember exactly why, but they got rid of him. So now you have money problems. So now you're trying to get yourself back on track, and you do this.
The board was probably seeing he had no scruples and no rules, and they were like, "No, you got to go. You about to get us all broken here."
Yeah. And he had no people skills whatsoever. And the weird thing is another weird thing, him bringing his assistant from California to New York. We didn't have a fair, we just slept. Because I was like, you know what? She's probably one of the people he enlisted to help hack or send that girl emails or whatever. Yeah, there was. It was a lot going on, but she did a good job. You know, the data breach, and then she had the investigative report and the grand jury indictments, and you know, those were little funny parts where they would bring in the other couples and
oh man, the people at the party, they're like, look, this is not public, right?
Right.
Wait, if this is not public, why am I on the record?
Why is she recording all this?
Right.
What are you trying to get me to say?
Right.
I screwed somebody else besides my husband? Yes, I did. Oh, and the one lady who said, no, I don't think my husband slept. I slept with someone, but I don't think my husband did. Unless he found that other dad who he has a crush on. I was like,
yeah. And the one, I think, was that the same lady that said, yes, I slept with somebody, and yes, he knew about it. What are you trying to get me to, and the one, what are you trying to get me to say? Exactly. Like, you know,
you're right.
Are you trying to shame me?
You know what I'm trying to get you to say. But yeah, but I mean, this stuff happens. I remember working, and it's going to be very brief. I remember working, I had started a new job, and there was this lady, she had just gotten a divorce, and she was on, I can't remember the name of this site. It was like Friend Finder maybe or something.
Okay.
But you found a date. And she was like, yeah, I'm going out on a date with blah, blah, blah. And she kind of mentioned when she was married that her and her husband used to have, but I think she called it key swapping or some kind of key party. And I was like, what in the heck is that?
Yeah, what is that? So is it just like partner swapping?
Yeah. So what happens is you guys have a party, kind of like Maud and Seb. You have a party and you have a bowl, and everybody drops their keys in the bowl when they get there.
Uh-huh.
But when it's time to leave, a husband picks out a key from the bowl. And whoever keys he picks up, or a wife or whoever, that's who they go home with.
Oh,
and
snap.
I was like, I almost said her name, but I was like, Teddy, you got to be fucking kidding. Are you kidding me?
That's really wild.
Yeah. And she's like, no. She's like, we do that all the time.
Oh my God. That's so wild.
Yeah. But she was like, no. And I mean, she was not ashamed. And now, I mean, it was consenting adult.
Yeah.
But I had just never heard of this. Never.
Honestly, like I always hear about these type of situations, like where the couples are all together doing like doubling up or whatever. But I've never heard of something like where someone actually leaves with someone else's spouse and goes somewhere else for the evening. I'm like, because that could get kind of more than just sex, can't it? I mean, you're hanging out all night, sleeping and cuddling. That's a lot more.
But I mean, I don't know if they like went home with them, or maybe it was another room, but whoever key, you know, they picked up, that's who they went home. And maybe it wasn't home. Maybe, like you said, they were going to another room, but that's who.
Wow.
So, you know, you got a variety. But yeah, she said it had gotten a little boring with her husband, and that's why they wind up getting a divorce.
Okay, y'all, if you're not on Patreon, you did not see the look on my face.
I mean, the things that this woman revealed to me was amazing. I'll have to talk to you about that at another time.
Okay,
because some of the things, whoa.
I'm just curious. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I want to know the details. You got to tell me later, because now I want to know.
Yeah. Oh, it was intriguing. But she made it was very normal to her.
Wow.
And she was looking for that in a new guy. She was looking for someone who was fun and
was open to it.
Yeah.
Well, see, that is why I guess Maud and Zeb were good, because they just happen to like the same thing. And I mean, I can't imagine like having that kind of conversation 10 or 15 years into a relationship. Like, hey, I know I didn't say I was like cut like this, but want to do that?
Yeah. But didn't she mention it at the beginning, or was it somewhere down the line? Because she said that Maud was the one who wanted to open. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I think she basically laid it on the line when they first met.
I'd like to have a peek into that conversation. Like, how did that go?
I love you and all as a relationship, but I like to sleep with other men.
Yeah.
Okay. But, and then you think about it, too, with him being a doctor and being gone. And I don't know. Those are just thoughts in my head.
I still feel like that was wholeheartedly weird because you're doing it with other parents at the school, your neighbors. I always thought when people did stuff like that, the point is to pick somebody you don't know. So you don't have to look them in the face the next day or at the next meeting or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. But you also think you want someone who is possibly safe, that somebody who has something to lose. Because remember, they said they keep it hush hush. They keep it quiet. Nobody talks. So
because nobody wants to be called out.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Lord, but so
life
many
is stranger than fiction. So you can best believe she got that from somewhere. She didn't make this up.
No. I want to know, what kind of research did you have to do, Kimberly? How did you figure this stuff out, Kimberly? Who told you? Do you know firsthand? I would love to know. Right. Yeah. Tell us all the business.
How long did it take you to write this book?
Yeah.
How many parties did you attend to know? Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying I like to know all the details, okay?
Yeah, very interesting. But yeah, that was my first. Now, I did hear one time before at another job where a guy that we worked with, he had those kind of parties. And he was like, yeah, we're having a party. Mm-hmm. And he had invited myself and another coworker. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, but I'm looking at my coworker and her eyes are like, no, we don't want to go. And I was like, why? Because, the guy was nice and cool. And she's like, no, we're good. And then later on, she's like, you don't want to go to those parties. And she, she was like, it's one of those parties. Still not sure. I don't know what she's talking about. And she's like, no, yeah. And she's like, no, Classy, you don't want to go to those parties.
Okay.
Because he was like, yeah. So apparently this is, that I'm saying this, they do it with people that they know.
Let me tell you.
Who probably has something to lose.
As an adult, I bet we've all come into contact at least one time with something like this and not even been aware. Because there was something that happened to me at my job where I was invited to a party by somebody that so without saying anything, just keeping it general, they were known for selling leather whips. And they were known for having this big hot tub party. And I was invited to said party. And I was like, I don't think that's my speed.
See? Right. But the way they invite you, it's not
right. It's not obvious. But if you've heard some things, then you might be like, I don't think that's for me. Or hell, maybe it is for you.
Yeah. And see, I didn't, the guy who had invited me, we kind of crossed paths, but we didn't know each other well. But all of a sudden he had started getting friendly and talking. And I was just like, oh, he's cool, blah, 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 blah. And then probably about a month into us, getting to know each other as coworkers, he invites me to this party. And now, in retrospect, I'm like, oh, he was getting the feelers out. And he probably thought that I was just wet behind the ears, didn't know, you get me there. And no.
I sure so don't try no party like that with coworkers. You crazy? No. They tell all your business.
Yeah. But again, when you have, because the one, my coworker who told me, no, we didn't want to go to this party, because he was asking me and she came up and he was like, oh, you want to go to the party too? And that's when she was like, no, we're good. We don't want to go to that party. No, we don't want, no, or something. And then she was telling me of another coworker who goes to those parties. And I was like, she doesn't seem like that type of person. And she was like, not what I've heard. But again, like you said, your coworkers will tell.
They will tell.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's always the quiet ones. You never know.
No, I did not expect her at all. And I think they were saying it was like most of the people were married, but it was a few single people. But most of the people were married that was at these parties. So,
Lord. Lord have mercy. And you know, it's funny because I know we're kind of getting off topic, but it's on topic, and I know y'all want to hear this dirt. So I had attended a local book conference some years ago. I'll keep that name to myself, but there you could hear certain people talking about said parties that are local. And I'm like, that is in the Metro Detroit area? I'm like, really? Where? I didn't know. I mean, I'm not in that circle, so obviously I wouldn't know, but apparently these are like normal occurrences. And certain people were leaving said event to go get dressed for said party. And I'm like, what?
Oh.
I'm like, damn.
How convenient. I go to a book convention, and at the same time, I can sneak over here.
Yes.
Get my freak on and hop back on the plane and go back home.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of romance authors.
Now, quiet is kept. You didn't hear this from me.
Mm-hmm. A friend of a friend of a friend told me. I have no idea.
Yeah, I've heard of a few romance authors who are rather freaky.
Oh, yeah.
I was shocked. A male author who said he couldn't get this one lady off of him.
Oh.
And he was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah.
I'm going to start singing the Lil Jon song.
Yeah, and all I could think of was like Zora Neale Hurston, who was so in love with Langston Hughes, but she didn't know. I mean, she probably realized he was gay, but you know, she was, but he didn't. Was it Langston? But somebody she loved, and she kept going at him. But this guy, he was and he's well known, and I'll tell you later too. Mm-hmm. And I think you've read this lady's book. You have. Because you reckon,
Okay, oh, I gotta know. Later, tell me offline. I gotta know.
Okay, let me write that one down. And
Lord, the dirt. See, don't y'all wish y'all was here in person with us, because you'd hear the dirt too, but you're not. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that later.
But people, it's shocking. I'm like, damn, and I'm sitting there with my little martini, or my Cosmo. I'm like, what the hell's going on? What they talking about? I'm like, wait, what?
They doing research, Tamara. How dare you? They were doing research for their next
Oh my God. I'm like, yeah, they had to do some research. Clearly. They had to know what they talking about in these books. So
exactly.
I'm like, oh,
that's
shit.
That's how to get them steam factors. Them steam levels up. But I have heard of a few parties. So we'll talk afterwards. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you guys have fun. I'm going to sit here with my drink. See you later. Judgment free. Have fun.
I don't share well when it comes to my husband. No, I don't think I could do that.
I don't like sharing. And I know either. It wouldn't be one way. It would never be where I would be allowed and he wouldn't. So I don't like sharing. So that's a hard no. That's a hard no.
Yep, that's a hard pass. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have no.
Lord, see the juicy conversation that this book inspires? I mean, it's like so much stuff going on. It's like,
yeah.
Yes,
ma'am.
And not only that, it's so juicy that Nicole Kidman's Blossom Films bought the rights, and she's doing it with Amazon.
Really?
Yes.
Now, I knew I heard that she had bought it, but I didn't know it was going to be through Amazon. But I know they said, she felt like it was very close to Big Little Lies.
Yeah.
And I could see this because there's a lot of good twists in here.
Oh, Lord. This is going to be one of these shows, this movie. I mean, depending on how hard Amazon wants to go, because I don't know. Everything I've seen on Amazon is kind of soft. I mean, if it was HBO or Netflix, I'm like, oh, crap, we about to see some sex, right? But I'm not sure if Amazon...
365 days sex. Yeah. No, you will not see that on Amazon.
No, so they might not go that far.
No.
But HBO would show us all the business. And so with Netflix.
Yeah. No, we're going to get the Kimberly McCreight version for real on Amazon. The couple trying to get the little souvenir beach ball and the fade to black sex, basically. Yes. That's what you're going to get.
They're going to leave you wondering on your own, what happened. Although,
Yeah.
I mean, we could get a good movie without seeing all the dirty stuff. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you know, if you're going to do it, you could throw some stuff out there. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Come on, Nicole. Come on, Nicole.
Push the limits a little bit. Come on, but not with Amazon.
Yeah.
They not doing nothing.
No, even though, okay, we ain't gonna go there. I ain't gonna be like, well, I was about to say something about somebody, but yes, Amazon, keep it safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did like the story. I did like the twist. I did like, you know, the parallel story plot. I loved her writing style. Mm-hmm. You know, besides the delusion and the diary of a woman with some kind of mental health issues after being abused by her father and killing abusive father and her best friend dying.
Yeah.
I thought, you know, it was a very good story. And in the end, it was like, was it really is like the mystery of who killed Amanda, or
what happened to
was
Amanda?
The mystery, what constitutes a good marriage, and what do you do in a marriage? You know, you protect, you cover, you you keep secrets.
Yeah, you
and
do
I
keep
think
secrets.
One of the quotes was, you know, like, when you marry, their problems become your problems. I think that was like one of the quotes, right? Somebody said, you know, whatever is your problem becomes my problem. Yeah. Unfortunately, in Zach's marriage, only his problems became her problems. Right. He didn't give a care about her problems.
No. And, you know, let me just say about the whole, how it was explained that Amanda died, that really reminded me. Did you ever watch the true crime story of The Staircase on Netflix? So in that true crime thing, the husband was accused of pushing the wife down the stairs. Mm-hmm. And there was blood everywhere, you know, down the staircase. And he was trying to say that she slipped and fell. And some people were trying to explain the blood from her trying to get up, slipping on the blood and hitting her head again.
Oh, I didn't see that. You said that's on Unsolved Mysteries?
No, it's on Netflix. It's called The Staircase.
No, I never saw that.
It's good. But let me tell you, okay, so I'm about to tell this real quick story and then I'll get back to my point. So The Staircase, I think, was like, I don't know, 6 or 8 episodes. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I watched it. But the very last episode, I fell asleep because I was like watching it back to back to back to back. And the very last episode, I fell asleep. And then I was jarred awake by my Amazon bleeping speaker blaring this song that was like heavy metal. I mean, I was dead sleep. And then it was like, all this racket. And I jumped up. I'm like, Alexa, off! Alexa, stop! I'm like screaming.
What are you playing, Metallica?
The thing would not cut off. I had to scream because it was so loud. And I'm like, what caused that? So I hit rewind. And in one of the very last scenes, the husband accused of murder asked Alexa to play this song. And it activated my damn Alexa. So, of course, we moved
that's
her.
Creepy.
We moved the thing out of that room. So now it's unplugged. We use something else. But that killed me.
So this is a recent story.
Yeah, I feel like it came on like 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, I'm losing time, but yeah, it's recent. And I'm like, oh my God. Can you imagine just being asleep and then just jerked awake like that?
No.
But that volume was like on 10. It was so loud. It creeped me out so bad. I was shaking. I could not go back to sleep for like an hour and a half.
Oh my God. I got like goosebumps.
Yeah, it was scary. It scared the shit out of me. But anyway, so that how they tried to explain what happened to that woman reminds me of how the author explained what happened to Amanda with her getting up, slipping, hitting her head, getting up, slipping, hitting her head. I'm like, how many times are you going to get up? Stay down, girl, stay down.
Yeah. But she was trying to get her father.
Crawl away. If you can't stand up, for whatever reason,
I know.
crawl.
Yeah.
That sounds insane.
Yeah, but too, like once you hit your head, you kind of. I've
Well,
had a concussion before, and you do kind of lose it a little
yeah,
bit.
I believe
Yeah,
that, but I would never, just being that I've seen the same scenario 2 different times. If I ever
yeah,
tumbled and took a fall and I couldn't get up, I would not keep trying.
yeah.
I would crawl away or something. You guys,
Yeah.
take that tip for free. Crawl away.
Exactly.
Lord have
Once
mercy,
you hit
but
your head, you're loopy,
yeah.
and yeah. But you don't think, you kind of just automatically think you can get back up, and that's probably, I think it's just a natural reaction is to, I got to get up. But who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
After I'm slipping in my own blood, I'm like, what the F? No. No. It sounds
Yeah.
awful. Like,
And
can
that's
you
what I was
imagine that
thinking.
scene?
Well, and that's what I was thinking too. Like when I mentioned that plot hole in the delusion, did she do all of that to bring us to that part in the story to say this girl was so delusional and thought this was her father that she was going to kill him, and she just kept getting up trying to, get him.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I was wondering, like, is that what she was trying to do with that whole diary and the phone calls? And she got to that point, and, because, I mean, she fought dude.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. And he even said it. He was like, she just wouldn't stop.
You're going to fight on the stairs. I mean, I understand you want to get away, but I don't know. I'd like to think that I've seen enough, read enough to not do something crazy like that.
Stairs?
Like,
yeah.
I would drop my weight. So, and they always say that when someone's trying to carry you or hold you, you just drop like a dead body. They're not going to keep you hold of you. So I would have dropped on my ass, probably broke a tailbone, but I would have slid my ass down those stairs like a dead body before I let him just hold me there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but if you do things that make sense, that's not really a good book. So I understand.
Yeah. And speaking of that scene, well, I won't say that scene. I'll say the confession or the the grand jury indictment from Carrie in his version.
His version was I left my wife, and let me just say that.
And I'm doing this because Sarah told me to do it. Really? But he was delusional too, unless this was real. And that, he was like, yeah, we had a good friendship, and I was texting her and being flirty, and I thought I'd just, get her over to the house. So you're gonna, right? Because he was fired from the law firm for stalking women and taking pictures, and I wasn't sure at the end. Was like, so was he the one blackmailing Sophie?
It could have been. I feel like it was, but it could have been someone else too. Because he had a little
could have
army of
been
people.
Somebody on Zach. Yeah, it could have been on Zach's side, but I was like, he was creepy. He said, yeah, Amanda and I, we developed a good friendship. She was buying me nice gifts. But who comes to the house with a mask on his head, on his face?
Like, that's not even funny, even a little bit.
No. So you guys like to have rape scenes together? Is that what you're going to say? Is that what you were trying to tell us? The guy who tries to, I'm getting attacked.
You do that crap, you mess around and get shot, okay? You come to somebody's house with a mask on. Quit playing. This is not what you do. It's not what you do. That's why he was lying.
Yeah, very much. I was like, okay, so in the end, I was trying to figure out, okay, which marriage survived? I don't think Sarah and Carrie survived after that.
No.
Seb and Maude, I think they were good.
Yeah, they were. They're strong. Like, they're rock solid.
Yeah, and Lizzie and Sam, they were going to work it out. But
maybe
that's Sarah.
But that was left open. It could or could not work out.
Yeah,
because she still had that secret from him. Remember when he said he was going to get, to rehab? She had a family secret. She had lied to him about her daddy being dead.
Right. Oh, and she didn't tell him.
She didn't tell him.
She said when you get back, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So So basically, the marriage that had the open relationship
Was the strongest.
was the one that survived.
Yeah.
And it probably survived because right from the jump, she was honest about what she wanted in their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where everybody else kind of hid stuff,
Those little lies, they add up.
Yeah, right. Because Carrie was fired and Sarah didn't even know.
No, because he was slinking around.
Well, he said he got laid off, right? Yeah, he said he got laid off, but he was actually fired.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Oh,
playing video games and eating whatever he had. Was it pizza or something he was supposed to be eating?
Pizza and watching Wimbledon and playing basketball in the ugly red gym. Girl.
Yes. That is the funniest thing because Sarah goes, how do we know each other? Oh, when Lizzie goes, I think we might have a connection. And she's like talking about the basketball game that both of their husbands play in this pickup game. That is the connection between Lizzie and Sarah and Sam and Carrie. So Carrie and Sam play together. And of course, then Sarah goes, oh, you know what? Your husband's probably one of the cute young ones. My husband is the fool with the ugly red high tops. You're like, oh no, he's
Yep. And that's what Mom described.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll never forget him. He has on those red gym shoes. And I was like, oh. So not only is he a jerk, he's a flashy jerk.
Yes. Flashy jerk. Yep. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I think now is a good time to take a really quick commercial break. When we return, we're going to talk about the audiobook narrators briefly, and then we're going to give our rating. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. All right, let's talk about these audiobook narrators. There were 3, okay. And to be honest, I didn't know there were 3. I just thought there were 2. I just thought there was a woman and a man.
Right, but the man was the guy who did the investigative reports in the grand jury. He was, I didn't realize that either because it just flowed so easily that I didn't realize it until you mentioned it at the beginning when you mentioned the narrators.
Well, to me, I knew the man. I recognized the guy as reading the other stuff. But Sarah Zimmerman and Carissa Vacker, they sound similar. So they were reading for Lizzie and Amanda. I didn't realize those were 2 different readers. Did you?
I did. Because Amanda's voice was a little pitchier, kind of like for a young girl and kind of, But Lizzie, I did. I noticed.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I guess I just thought that was a talented audiobook narrator because I didn't know it was 2 women. Like I caught the guy because he was doing all the other stuff. But I'm like, there were 3 narrators.
Yep. I did notice the difference in the voices. I think the one lady, her voice is maybe a little huskier, but like you said, a good narrator can switch it up.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it was or not. And at first I missed the guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I missed the male guy, the male narrator until you mentioned it. And I was like, oh yeah, he did the grand jury indictments and read the investigative reports, from the breach and all that. So
yeah.
I think they did a good job. It was very nice.
It was good. It was seamless. I clearly enjoyed it because I'm like, I didn't even know there was a second woman. I'm like, whatever. Sound good to me.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it was. They were really good.
Okay, good. I mean, really, I have no complaints about the narration.
No, editing was great. Everything, like you said, it was seamless. It was nothing to complain about. When I was, and this is not narrator, but I texted you and I'm like dragging this book out because it was so good to me that I didn't want it to end because I was like, okay, so now I got to go find another good book after this. But yeah, I mean, it wind up, I hurry up and finished it, but I really was like, I want to hold on.
So Amanda's voice, are you saying that was Carissa Vacker?
I believe, that's what they need to do, is tell us who is who.
Yeah, for some reason, Amanda's voice irritated me for a little bit early on, and eventually I got used to it. But something about Amanda
picky.
just bothered me. And that's why I think I just thought, well, this is this woman's other voice, and I don't care for it as much as her regular voice.
Yeah. No, I believe that is Carissa, because she was giving off that younger vibe, because if you think about it, what was the other lady's name? Other narrator?
Sarah Zimmerman.
And I think I've heard her before in other books. And what else has she wrote? But remember, Amanda was like, all the other ladies were in their 40s. Mm-hmm. Amanda was like 28 or something.
Yeah.
So I did notice that, where she was trying to give her a younger voice compared to the other, to Lizzie and the other people. It was more of a mature like voice.
Yeah.
So I believe Carissa probably was Amanda.
Okay.
And I'm looking up this Sarah Zimmerman, and she looks older.
Okay.
I'm assuming she's probably Lizzie. I'm going to give it that one. Okay. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, because I'm like, ooh, Amanda's voice. Yikes. But, again, like after a couple of chapters, you get used to it and it's fine.
And I'm looking at Carissa's website. She has done young adult. So that tells you a lot there.
Okay.
Young adult fantasy, some romance. So, yeah. And Sarah Zimmerman has done some Broadway stuff, it looks like. Theater. So I bet that was Lizzie.
All right.
That's what they need to do on Audible. Maybe we should write to them too and say, hey, when you guys have more than one narrator, tell us which character they are.
Yeah.
Damn it.
That would be helpful.
Yeah. That would be very helpful. All right.
Okay. Well, cool. So if you guys listen to this on audio, let us know what you thought. And we're going to give our ratings now. Classy, would you like to go first?
Yes. I gave it a 4.
Same.
Okay.
I mean, because I think we're pretty clear with what we liked and what we didn't like.
Yeah. I mean, it was getting close to, it could have been a 5 book. It really could have. But, that you spent a large amount of Amanda's storyline in a diary that you didn't tie up.
Yeah.
A plot of her father possibly being her stalker. And
yeah, I don't mind some misdirects, but that was vast. That was big.
Yeah.
Big time spent.
Yeah. Well, even the bad part was, even Lizzie said that. I wasted all this damn time looking for her father. She was like, basically, how do I tell Millie that, we spent all this time. So, yeah. So I gave it a 4. I enjoyed it. Other than that, it was good. It just made you think about marriage, and we talked about all the other stuff.
Yeah, written by a woman, showing how women actually feel.
Yes.
And how women act. Right. It's like legit.
It was believable. It was, when you were reading and some of the quotes, you're like, yep, yes, yes.
Exactly.
Unlike the book we read the last time, we're like, no woman does that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, there are so many good quotes in here. So many. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good book, y'all. Yeah. It was very good.
Yeah.
It would definitely make a really, really excellent book club book. So when you guys start gathering again, would. Yeah. Because everyone would be like having conversations about sex clubs and stuff, sex parties and all kind of crap that we talked about here. It'd be so fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all the different things in a marriage and, what goes on behind closed doors, all that. It's and just so imagine, much to pick apart.
We haven't even had any drinks. If you were at book club, you'd be drinking wine or something. You'd be having a ball talking about this book.
Some secrets may be revealed with some wine.
It'd be one of those, what happens at book club stays at book club meetings.
if I hear this outside book club, one of you guys have got to go.
Yes. Like, let me hear this again. I'm going to find you. I'll find you.
It will be revealed.
Yes, it will.
And somebody will be writing a book about us.
Oh my God, right, girl? Oh my gosh. I need a Netflix special, okay?
Right. Did that give me Amazon
No.
or Hulu?
No. So I think we're done. What do you think, Lassie?
I think we're done.
Okay.
I agree.
Yes. So that is it for today, guys. And if you would like to talk with us about a good marriage, you can find us both in the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official. So that is it. Take care, guys. And until next time, happy reading. If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.